Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and in this first week in November, the people have spoken, and it turns out they want more awesomeness from Sportslook, and that's a campaign promise we can deliver on. We've got Josh Smith from Greyhound Women's Soccer. We've got Jaime Ramirez, the head coach of the Portales Rams. Brandon and Ryan will do a high school spotlight. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound Volleyball lost their last regular season contest, but they still go into the playoffs, so congratulations to Sia Poyer and company. Greyhound Football not quite so lucky. They were hoping to finish fourth in the Lone Star Conference with a win against Angelo State, came up on the losing end of a 34-17 score. Greyhound Women's Basketball playing another Division I school. They played the University of New Mexico on Sunday, played pretty well, it came up on the losing end. But they'll be playing their first games that officially count this weekend in the McDonald's J.P. Stone Community Classic Basketball Tournament. And congratulations to Mercy Rodich from the Greyhound Women's Cross Country team. She, last weekend, became the Lone Star Conference champion. Well, that is going to wrap up an Eastern recap, so what we'll do is we'll clear this out and I'll bring in my first coach, Josh Smith of Greyhound Women's Soccer, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we welcome to the set our first guest of the evening, Josh Smith, the head coach of Greyhound Women's Soccer. And Coach, the only word that comes to mind to describe your season, phenomenal.
Thank you very much.
For people that have not gotten the news, your ladies went to a level that no other Greyhound Women's Soccer team has ever gone to.
Yes, sir. No, absolutely made the championship game, which was an exciting run for us.
Well, Coach, to recapitulate the season, you guys went in, you had to go on the road, you had to play Texas A&M Commerce, you had to beat them, and then you had to go to Canyon, Texas, and you had to beat WT there. Yep. You did both of those things.
Yes, sir. No, it was fantastic. The girls were up for the game, and they were excited, and we've been working on a lot of stuff getting ready for those games. And last time we were at Commerce, we felt like we lost one we shouldn't have lost, and the girls were excited to get that game back. And it had gotten moved on us a couple times, and the weather was kind of iffy. And the last time we had played in bad weather, we didn't perform. And so this time, I mean, they were there, and they played really hard. And then, like you said, at WT, playing them, the 19th team in the country at their home field, and getting the golden goal in overtime, and it's not much sweeter wins than that. So,
Coach, at what point did you realize that you had clinched the spot in the playoffs?
We had clinched a couple weeks ago.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think after our first or second game of the second round, we had clinched, but then at that point it was just all about seeding, and we had a chance to finish as high as third in the conference and dropped a couple games we shouldn't have dropped, and so we made the road a little more difficult for us to get to where we wanted to go, but I was proud of the girls for getting us there.
But you did have a little bit of momentum because in that last weekend of the regular season, you got a nice win.
No, absolutely. And that's where I was really proud of the girls is once we played TWU and Commerce at their place and struggled in those games, didn't perform how we wanted to, I told the girls, I said, you know, this weekend's either going to make or break us. And we're either going to come out on fire next week or we might as well pack it up and get ready for next year. And the girls responded to it and just really took training session to a new level, you know, and really took it to UTPB in that game. And then against Angelo, we had outshot them 12-2 and lost 1-0. And they've got a great striker up top that might be an All-American and, you know, gave her a chance and lost that game, but then came out on fire the next two. And so just had a really strong finish to the year.
And it was ironic that that would not be the last time that you would see Angelo State was in the regular season. Coach, what was the commonality in your two wins at Commerce and at WT? In what ways were they two completely different matches?
Yeah, I mean, I think the common part was, I mean, our season was on the line, you know, and I think in a lot of ways they're so different though. You know, A&M Commerce is a team that they just like to kick the ball and run and play for set pieces and corners and hit you as hard as they can. And, you know, they're not a dirty team. They're just a very direct team, you know. And so we knew we were going to have to defend balls well out of the air. against them. And with our average height being 5'5", 5'4", you know, that's always a tough deal. But I was really proud of our girls. They stepped up, and, you know, we wound up taking one of our center backs out of the back line and putting her up top as a striker, and she scored 3 goals, I think, the last part of the season. And so making a couple tweaks like that the girls bought into was huge. And then WT is a team that they like to hold on to the ball and possess the ball, and they like to use their outside backs and get forward, and came into it with a good game plan and actually took them out of their game plan. They went into a 3-back system against us, and so then we made some adjustments to go back at them again. And so I think that second game was much more of a chess match, you know, between our girls and their girls, of constantly moving and adapting. And so, I mean, they were very, very different games in a lot of ways. But the last 10 minutes, we made an adjustment against WT, and at that point, you know, we had a really good feeling going into overtime. And I told the girls, I said, look, we have a shot. You know, we can either go to PKs, which is fine, and beat them there. I said, but you got the momentum. Let's beat them now. And the girls were hyped up, and they got after it. So,
you bring up a good point, and I've never asked this question of a soccer coach, so this is brand new territory, and I'm probably going to be really surprised by the answer. I know with football, you spend a lot of time in the film room. You do a lot of scouting that way. How much film work is there when you're coaching soccer?
So for our athletes this year, we didn't have them do as much film work of like scouting opponents ahead. We had them do a lot more reflective film work, where they would go back and dissect the game that we had just played and kind of take notes on their position, take notes on things they're seeing in the film, and then they would give that back to us, and we would kind of just have a discussion about it. But Bryce, my assistant, I mean, he's done a fantastic job, and every week he's watching probably hours of game film, and then I'm watching some game film as well. And we're just kind of comparing notes and trying to pick up common tendencies with teams that we're seeing from game to game, or adjustments that teams make so we're ready for them when they make them in games.
I've known some coaches that really wanted to be prepared for every eventuality that they were going to face. I've had other coaches that I'm familiar with that it's just like, no, we're going to do what we do and let the other team make the adjustments.
Right.
Are you kind of in between, or do you lean one direction or another?
I think it depends a little bit on the game. You know, I think to some degree, the pride in me would say, nah, let's make them change, you know? But I think the realist in me would understand that on paper, we're hardly the best team on paper. And so we have to be really good at our game plan, and we have to be really good at adjusting to the other teams. And so I think from that standpoint, we kept our base system and formation throughout the year, but we made tactical adjustments inside of that. And so it was kind of a balance between the two. But, you know, hopefully soon we'll be at the top of the conference, you know? And then at that point, hopefully a lot of people are adjusting to us, and we're sticking to our game plan, so.
Josh, who was the one player that from the very first day of practice until the very last match was a player that you knew how good she was going to be? Who was the player that surprised you the most?
Honestly, we had a few of those. That's a tough question. You know, I think Julia Tucker, who was a transfer student from Hill College, that was one that we weren't sure what to expect coming from a junior college. I knew she was a hardworking kid, a good kid, and I mean, she started from day one from us. In training the first couple days, you could tell it was a new level for her. And then she was one of our most consistent players throughout the year and wound up scoring the game winner at WT, you know. And I would say, I guess to go above and beyond on your question, I mean, Kiara Diaz as well. I mean, she was injured the first 2 years. I thought didn't score as many goals as she would have liked, but throughout the season, she just kept getting better. And, you know, I think she created opportunities for other people to score based off her movement and whatnot. And so I think this year was a lot about growth for a lot of the girls, actually. And so I was really proud of them from that.
Coach, you're going to get a chance to do a full year of recruiting. You know, to a certain extent, you just kind of inherited what you got this year. What's going to be your number one recruiting priority?
Strikers. We've got to have somebody who put the ball in the back of the net, you know. I think we need to, there's a couple spots on the field that we're going to look to upgrade, you know, as well, and get more competitive at. But I think we need to improve our goalkeeping. We need to improve our strikers, you know. And at that point, whether that's internally with girls stepping up and developing, or whether that's through recruiting, kind of is yet to be determined a little bit. But I mean, when we beat WT, I think my inbox blew up from kids. So it's exciting to see just from that standpoint too.
Is there a part of the country that you really feel like you're going to be able to recruit heavily, or is it just best player regardless if it's Walla Walla, Washington, or Tallahassee, Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I think regionally it'll be really important for us. You know, I think we'll get a lot of Dallas kids. You know, I think we'll get into El Paso a little bit, kind of West Texas, New Mexico. I really think pretty much from Dallas to San Diego, sort of that corridor will be really important for us, I think.
What is the off-season going to look like for Greyhound women's soccer?
Yeah, we'll give them a couple weeks off, and then we're going to get them going. You know, I told the girls, we met with them earlier today, and, you know, said off-seasons are going to make us or break us, you know, and we're going to bring in a bunch of recruits, and it's time for us to, you know, internally with what we have right now, step up and see where we can develop and where we can go. And so my hope for off-season is we challenge them in new ways that they haven't been challenged before. We give them new ideas that they haven't had before and just kind of see where that takes them, you know. And I think for some of them, they'll be challenged in ways that will really push them to excel. And then for others of them, they'll face more adversity than they faced, and it's how will they respond to that.
Coach, I always try and give my coaches at Eastern a chance to promote their programs. I know a lot of coaches during the summertime will do individual camps, skill camps, things like that. Anything like that planned for Greyhound women's soccer?
We'll have one in the summer. We haven't set the date. It'll probably be in July at some point. I don't think we're going to do a winter one, just with where we're at right now with recruiting. But we'll definitely have one in the summer, and we're debating whether we may even do a residential camp over the summer as well. So.
And we will point out that when you do make that decision, the information will undoubtedly be on Go Eastern Athletics, our website.
Absolutely.
Coach, congratulations. I mean, sensational year. Just kudos to you, kudos to your ladies, and let's hope that the next time we get to a championship, we bring home that big blue trophy.
Yes, sir. That's the goal. Appreciate it.
Well, Coach, congratulations. And that will conclude our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out and we'll cue up a high school spotlight right now.
Hello and welcome back to High School Spotlight. I'm Brendan Warren.
And I'm Ryan Schroeder.
Last weekend we traveled up to Roswell to watch the Roswell High Coyotes take on the Goddard Rockets.
Yes, this game was going to be a decider for the district champion, and it would also decide who would get the #1 seed going into the 5A state playoffs.
Let's get to some highlights. Here we have the Goddard High Rockets running out into this game without a loss yet this season.
And here come the Roswell Coyotes with a 7-2 overall record, fighting to take the top spot in the district. Here we see the Coyotes decide to hand it off to Justin Carrasco. He'll take it around the left side on the sweep and bring it all the way in for the first Coyote touchdown of the game, making the score 7-0 with 5:09 left in the first quarter. Now we see the Rocket offense again, led by senior quarterback Dalton Bowles. He'll take the snap and drop back, looking down the left side. He'll air it out deep down to wide receiver Nate Stone on the sideline for the 40-yard gain and a Rocket first down.
Dalton Bowles in the shotgun takes off to his left on a designed quarterback run, gets the edge, avoids the tackle, and makes it into the end zone for 6 for his first touchdown of the game, tying up the score at 7 apiece.
Here we see the Rockets again on the goal line, give it to Dalton Bowles. He'll start to take it to his right, but he sees a hole open up right up the middle, and he'll take it. He stumbles into the end zone for another Rocket touchdown to make the score 14-7 with 5:56 left in the first half.
The Coyotes with the ball under center puts a man in motion, and it's pitched out to Justin Carrasco, who keeps his legs turning through the contact and gets into the end zone for his second touchdown of the game. And with some good sportsmanship, high-fives the defender, tying up the score at 14-all with a little time left in the first half.
Now we'll see the Rocket offense back at work to start the second half. They're going to go pass here, and we'll see Bowles get it out to Hunter Bean over the middle. Bean loses it, and the ref calls it a fumble with the Coyotes recovering it.
Valenzuela in the shotgun with an empty backfield takes his drop steps before throwing over the middle to Carrasco, who makes an impressive one-handed catch before being hit hard and getting pretty shaken up afterward.
Coyotes looking to score here decide to keep it in the hands of Ethan Valenzuela. He'll get it over to the left to Dominic Neva, who just walks right into the end zone for the third Coyote touchdown of the game, making it 21-14 with 5:33 left in the third.
Bowles in the shotgun with the back beside him fakes the handoff and takes it himself off the edge, picking up a couple blocks and bulldozing his way through and diving into the end zone for the score. Once again, tying the game, this time 21-21.
Coyotes now with possession in a tie ball game. Decide on the pitch to the right to Justin Carrasco. He'll take it all the way around, getting some great blocks from his teammates down the sideline, all the way down to the 18-yard line to put his team in scoring position.
The Coyotes in field goal formation from the right hash. The snap is perfect, the hold is good, and the kicker does the rest, booting it right through the uprights, putting Roswell High ahead 24-21 with a little under 2 minutes left to play.
Goddard's got it now with about a minute and a half left, trying to put a drive together. They decide to pass it over to the right side to Hunter Bean. He'll turn up the field and get grabbed around the ankles, and then he'll fumble it with the game on the line, handing it back over to the Coyotes.
Roswell High lined up in the victory formation after the takeaway. They snapped the ball, and it is knelt as time expires. The final score is 24-21. The teams line up to shake hands after one of the best high school football matches I've ever witnessed. Coaches and players congratulate each other on jobs well done.
And now let's take a look at our playoff brackets. This weekend, Elida will be taking on Animas down in Animas for the 6-man state championship.
For the 8-man bracket, we have Gateway Christian taking on Mesilla Valley Christian School, Melrose taking on Magdalena, Logan at Mountaineer, and Manal at Tatum.
In the 2A bracket, Texaco heads down to Eunice for the 1-8 matchup. Newcomb takes on Fort Sumner in Fort Sumner, and Jowl will head up to Santa Rosa.
For the 3A bracket, Nimi will head down to Hatch Valley to take on the Bears, and the winner of that one will face Dexter next week.
In the 4A bracket, Bernalillo heads down to Lovington for their first playoff game in a long time. Also, Portales took the 2 seed this year.
For the 5A bracket, Roswell and Goddard both have first-round byes, being the number 1 and 2 seeds.
And finally in 6A, Hobbs ended up taking the 6th seed this year, with Clovis at number 10, and the top 4 being Cleveland, Volcano Vista, Centennial, and La Cueva.
Thank you for watching High School Spotlight.
Before we send you back to Doc, make sure you go and like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates, photos, and highlights. Once again, I'm Ryan Schroeder,
And I'm Brandon Warren.
and we'll see you next week.
Welcome back to Sportslook. Thanks to Brandon and Ryan for that high school spotlight. And speaking of high school spotlights, we could do a whole program on the spotlights of this gentleman's team. This is Jaime Ramirez, the head coach of the Portales Rams. And Coach, welcome to Sportslook.
Thank you for having me.
Coach, I just realized as I was getting ready to have you on as my guest that you've been coaching at 3 different places in eastern New Mexico, all of them served by Sportslook. You were at Loving, you were at Hobbs, Portales, all of those get Sportslook. So you're well known in this part of the state.
Oh, that's neat.
And of course, best known now as the head coach of the Portales Rams. You've got a state championship under your belt. You've got numerous appearances in the playoffs. And this year, Rams going to the playoffs again.
Yes, sir. And we're very excited about this next opportunity or next phase of our season.
I had the opportunity of broadcasting some of your games on radio at the beginning of the season, and after the first 5 games of the season, you guys were 2-3. It occurs to me you guys haven't lost very much since then.
No, we started out the season 2-3, and really the loss in overtime to Hope. I knew that we had some good talent, and so we didn't panic. We just said, you know what, let's just get better at what we're doing. And we get two more victories, and then we go on the road to, I believe we played Goddard the 4th game of the season, so we're 2-1, and didn't have our best performance of the season against Goddard, probably one of the worst performances that we've had. The combination of Goddard being a great football team, and then the combination of us doing some things incorrectly. Well, we go to Pius, and we have a really good football game going between both of us. It was very highly competitive. We missed an extra point, and then we had a touchdown called back, and then missed a field goal. So we left there thinking, man, we let one get away from us. And then, so we're 2-3, and I just got the boys together, and we had a bye week, and I just said, we can sit there and take what we've had and try to get better, or we can give up. It's your choice. Do you want to finish the season and rewrite what our future is going to look like, or do we want to go ahead and look at the past and say, oh, we're not very good? So the boys took it as a challenge, and they did their job, and sure enough, we went 5-0 the last part of the season.
I've been impressed with every facet of your game, how it's improved. The one thing that was good right from the word go, Baylor Diaz, I mean, that kid was really good. He's been good all season long. I'd say your offensive line is the one thing that I've been most impressed with. Starting 4 juniors, untested beginning of the season, those kids have come a long way.
They sure have. Philip last year played at left tackle for us. And Fabian got a little bit of playing time at right tackle, but not a whole lot. And so we started looking at what they do good. And so rather than try to make them better defensive tackles or offensive tackles, we said, you know what? I think they would be better served at being guards. And so we moved both Philip and Fabian Olivas to guards, and then moved JJ to full-time center. And then we found 2 tackles. We moved Fred Johnson to left tackle, and then we moved Christian Rodriguez to right tackle, and that was the chemistry that we needed to start doing well. And since we made those moves, like I said, we've been 5-0.
A young man that had a lot of pressure on him coming into this season was Julian Urioste. He was following in the footsteps of Junior Ramirez and Tyrese Dawson. And I tell you what, that kid, he may, and this is saying a lot because Junior was a great quarterback, Tyrese was a quarterback. I mean, he may be the best of all 3 when all is said and done.
I hope so, because that means that we'll have won a state championship. And so I think to top their performances, Julian just simply has to, stay within the moment and play each moment, within the moment. And so I think that if he'll do that and continue to work hard, he's an extremely hard worker. And so he's always pushing himself. And, his football mechanics were not the best whenever we first started. And he has worked relentlessly to be a better passer. His hands are a little bit smaller, and what people don't realize, it's harder for him to throw the ball with a thicker girth on the football. So because of that, he's worked extremely hard to make sure that he spins that ball the way that it needs to.
And that's one thing I was talking, you had an assistant coach go on my radio show earlier this week, and we were talking about the fact that he has really developed the ability to throw a nice tight spiral in spite of the fact that his hands may be a little smaller than other quarterbacks.
Right, and he's worked hard. We have worked relentlessly at, his mechanics and things of that nature. And he not only has worked with me, but he'll work on his own with his brother and stuff like that in terms of throwing passes to his brother and making sure, there's just some key little minor adjustments that I made to his throwing motion and what he could feel that when he does it, and he's done a great job.
Once you started to win games, and we'll point out, like we said after the game against St. Pius, you guys haven't lost. Was there one game in particular that was really the crucial turning point, or was every game in its own right important to what you've become?
Well, I think every game in the first 5 have helped us, start that second half season. And then as you start winning and the kids grow confidence within each other, they expect to win and they step on the field with a different, aura about them. And I truly believe when you win and you have confidence, as long as you stay humble, I think that's a good recipe. Just stay humble, do what you do, work hard, and know that if you trust your brothers around you, that everything's going to work out.
There are many sung heroes. We sing the praise when I get a chance to do your games, when Paul Benoit does your games on the radio. But there are also unsung heroes, maybe kids that names don't get called over the loudspeaker that are still crucial. If you had an unsung hero or 2, who would you like to praise in this opportunity?
Well, I think everybody that steps on the practice field and plays scout team for us, all those guys do a good job of trying to help prepare our team for the following game or the game that's fixing to happen. And so, if I'd name one, I would be cheating, the rest of those guys. So my shout out is, or my praise is, to all those non-starters that get on that scout team and make us work better.
And I was smiling as you were saying that because I had a son who had the privilege of playing football for the Portales Rams, was never a starter, but I said, be the best scouts player you can be, because if the team wins, you win.
That's exactly right.
Coach, as we pointed out, the Rams are into the playoffs again. You go in as the number 2 seed, and people might say, well, maybe not getting as much love as otherwise, but according to the paper, you lost a game to St. Pius, and they got the 1 seed.
They did, and if you apply the criteria, because that coach's input, meaning they wanted our input on what we thought that the seeding should look like. Well, based on their criteria, which was district placement, head-to-head, overall record, max preps rankings, and then wins over district champions regardless of classification. And we started looking at that, and so we put our input in, and we were right on the button in terms of our input matched exactly what the NMA came up with in terms of seeding for our classification.
I don't want to put things too far ahead, and I know you are famously good at doing that. That's a long way off in the future with a possible 2 versus 1 seed. You're going to be starting off by playing the winner of a 7-10 seed.
Sure, and make no mistake, we're not taking the 7 or 10 seed lightly at all. All we want to do is beat the team that's in front of us. And right now, the winner of the 7 and 10 seed, which is the 7 seed is Grants and the 10 seed is Silver. Both of them are quality opponents. Both of them have won big games. I believe that Grants is 8-2, and I believe Silver is either 5-5 or 6-4. I'm not. They had a tough district. They were playing actually with the 5A schools, and because of it, it hurt their record just a little bit.
Well, Coach, another great year for Taos Ram football. I've seen good. This team, and I can honestly say, has gone farther from point A to point B than any other team. So best of luck in the playoffs, and let's hope it's another year with a state championship for Taos.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the interview segments of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Happy birthday to Megan Kavanaugh, born on this date in 1960. And some of you are saying, Megan Kavanaugh, not really familiar with that name from the world of sports. What sport does she play? She doesn't play a sport. She's an actress. So why am I bringing her up on an overtime? Because she played an athlete. She was the character Hooch in the movie A League of Their Own, which is still the greatest movie ever about women's sports. Sadly, it's one of the few movies about women's sports, and perhaps somebody who right now is a student at Eastern New Mexico University, majoring in digital filmmaking, may rectify that omission someday. Well, that is going to wrap up an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Josh Smith and Jaime Ramirez. I'd like to thank Brandon and Ryan for their high school spotlight. Mr. Marquell, once again, my floor director. So for those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.
To this game without a loss yet this season.
Dude, I think I just heard that door open.
No way. No, you did not.
I heard something from you.
No.
I don't like to stay shut night. Keep going.
All right.
And here come the Roswell Coyotes with a
What the?